I fought a deadly survival war. This is a server I set up a few months ago with my friends, and from what has happened so far, it has been quite an adventure. You see, this server is weird and has many rules, but those rules make it fun and entertaining. The server is a giant survival island, and you can only claim land and build bases on the island. You can go to the mainland, but only for resources. The other rules are all war related because the server was created so different factions and teams will set off to different parts of the island to start kingdoms and empires. But before we start, I must let you all know that this is all unscripted. I've just turned the events that have happened into a story. Also, this video took a long time to make, so please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. With this, let's set off on our first journey on the land of Ataraxia. We spawned into the world and started doing the first things you do on your first day. Chopped down some trees, crafted some wooden tools, went mining, raided a nearby village, and set up a small little shack at spawn. We spent the next few days at this small shack at spawn, just gathering resources from all around the island. Eventually, all members of our faction were able to get iron armor, and we can now start advancing further. But before we do that, we decided that we did not want our base at spawn, especially when more players start joining. Loot from our base will easily be taken, and we wanted a place where we could expand and eventually build a large kingdom. So we took down the shack at spawn and relocated to a shoreline on the northwestern side of the island, around 200 blocks away from spawn. We started constructing houses and built a mine so we could easily obtain diamonds and other ores. The town building was going very well, and we decided to name our town Endor. It would be the capital city for our nation. We then decided to create our government. We decided we would become a constitutional republic and elect our leaders through democratic means. We would allow great freedoms and let our citizens do what they want and give freedom and rights to the great people of our nation. We held an election because our nation needed a leader, because a great war was coming. We will get into that later. We held an election for president between me and my good friend Fake Nest, and by a landslide, 5-1 vote, I won the election. I was now the leader of our nation, Endoria. Around this time, all new players were joining the server, all joining different factions and creating different nations and empires. One such group was what they called themselves the Corrupt Policemen. These players were Bolorangio, Pulu, Hippo's Tasty, and Chicken Man. They created their base, the Corrupt Police Department, on the northeast side of the island and were a big problem from the start. They got their gear and built their capital city much faster than any other nation did. Even our nation, who had started much earlier than them, was outgeared by them in a matter of hours. It was almost scary how fast they got their gear. They were the first nation to obtain enchanted diamond armor and were the first ones to enter the Nether. Once they got their gear, they started causing trouble all over the island. One of them stole all of our iron and a few of the diamonds we had. They burned down our ally Honeybee's base and started a small-scale invasion of our land. The invasion was quickly ended because Camp Elias left our nation to join Honeybee in the fight for her nation. To remind you all, The server has been around for only about a week in real life. Now, with all of this trouble happening so early in the server, the first war was very, very near. After the huge progress we saw from the corrupt police department, our nation knew we had to obtain a nether portal and an enchantment table. This was now hard since someone had stolen some of our diamonds, but luckily we eventually got enough diamonds for a few swords, pickaxes, and an enchantment table. We opened a nether portal as quickly as we could and enchanted our gear before entering the portal. We charged into the nether, eventually finding a fortress. We got half a stack of blaze rods and rushed back into the overworld as quickly as we could. But when we came back to Endor, a member of the corrupt police department had raided us again, but this time it was much worse. They had stolen most of our military supplies and half of our food supply. Food was bad enough because our nation was going through a bad food shortage due to raids. But they had taken most of our military supplies, the very things we needed to defend our nation. We were now in a very vulnerable state. After this raid, we moved all of our military supplies to a hidden Navy base on the other side of our territory. We named it Fort Guardian because it was kind of guarding all of our stuff. We also moved all of our villagers to it because the corrupt police were looking for them. You see, when we took a few villagers from the only village on the island on the first days of the server, the rest of the villagers died out fast. We were the only nation to have villagers. Keeping them in Endor was no longer safe. We now stored most of our stuff in Fort Guardian, and we started feeling at home. We started a villager breeder, and we started a dog army. Things were going well.
So, yes, Titanus, I would just like to say that since our Navy is finished, I believe...
Not finished, but it's work in progress.
It's like a prototype.
Work in progress.
And so, at first, in the beginning of the server, we were kind of low on resources, and the other side was booming. But thanks to our skill, we had developed like a good defense and possibly a peace treaty with one of the other kingdoms, and a good navy so far with the help of these villagers and dog army farms. And I suggest that we should basically begin our constitution, get our kingdom officially established with the name, and yeah.
Huzzah! Wait, no, I'm wrong. Huzzah!
Oh no.
That was until a few days later. It all started when a new player joined the server, Goat Gaming. Him and Fake Nest were really good friends. We welcomed him into our nation with open arms and gave him some starter gear. Fake Nest then traveled with Sampling Goat and Goat Gaming back to Endor. But little did they know, watching them was Blorangio. He watched them for quite a while. He then pulled out his bow and shot Goat Gaming dead. Outraged, Fake Nest and Sampling Goat chased after Blorangio. They eventually killed him. I came out to help at the end. After Blorangio was killed, and he lost all of his stuff, the corrupt policemen geared up. Before we knew it, we saw the entire corrupt police army charging into Endor. The first battle of the survival war, the Battle of Endor, has begun. We expected them to attack back at us, so we lined up to fight and launched a small little navy team to help. But we thought they only had iron armor, and we had enchanted iron. We thought we were ready for the attack, but much to our horror, they showed up in enchanted diamond armor and even some netherite. We ran as fast as we could, or swam. The corrupt police split us up and chased us down one by one. I was being chased out to sea by Hippos Tasty, and I could barely outswim him. I watched in chat and heard in the Discord our entire nation being slaughtered. I eventually ran out of hunger, and Hippos Tasty ended me. We had lost some of our best gear, and I hid in Fort Guardian, hoping they would not discover me in the base. I thought they were coming and found the base, so I equipped the only diamond armor we had and got the dog army ready for battle. I waited for over an hour, watching in chat as more members were killed. There was nothing I could do. I had to hold down the fort in case they found it. Eventually, they all logged off, and I got to go back to Endor and see our remaining players. But I could not return to Endor, so I met up with Sampling Goat. I was informed by Sampling Goat that Fake Nest evacuated Goat Gaming and our other remaining members to the mainland to stay until it was safe to return. The corrupt policeman then captured Fake Nest and is now being held hostage at the corrupt police department. The corrupt policeman then invaded the rest of Endor and burned down and destroyed houses, stole of all our food and supplies in Endor, and then occupied the city. We were pushed out of Endor, and all we had was Fort Guardian. We called Goat Gaming and the others back to Fort Guardian, and now had to think of what next. We had to rescue Fake Nest, and we had to free Endor from the corrupt police occupation. The next day, we all logged online to think of what to do next. We had another player join our nation around this time, Over Raccoon. He wanted to help us defeat the corrupt police. Around this time, Fake Nest escaped his prison cell and burned down the corrupt police station. The battle of corruption had begun. He barely escaped with his life, and we rushed him into Fort Guardian. Shortly after the police station was burned down, a new one was built in its place. After the devastating battle of corruption to the corrupt policemen, Blorangio and Pulu declared the creation of the B.O.A. Empire, with both Blorangio and Pulu being the dictators. The Empire now had a strict and communist government. The Empire laid claim to the whole island, not recognizing any other nations. The dictators declared that after the devastation caused by the captured Endorians at the Battle of Corruption, the B.O.A. Empire would hunt down every last Endorian and our allies, until there was nothing left of us. A few days later, Pulu had discovered Fort Guardian. We saw this coming. Just before, we moved everything to a new base of operation. But this time, we were building a new town. Since the Battle of Corruption, most of the B.O.A. Empire members had not been online. This gave our nation time to gear up once again. We settled in a cave on a huge peninsula on the southwest side of the island. It was originally intended to be another secret Navy base on the shores, but it became much more. You see, we had a huge food shortage still going on in our nation. We started building farms, and soon we built houses. We named the town Ursuv and made it the temporary capital of our nation. It was never meant to become a new town, but eventually, it did. Since most of the B.O.A. Empire members were not online much, there were rarely ever raids from our enemies, which allowed our nation to flourish once more. With our food shortage now solved, we now begin major military building. We started focusing on our villagers and getting diamond gear and enchantment books from them. We started a huge sheep farm so we can get beds very fast. Once we had a large bed supply, we started netherite mining. Unfortunately, around this time, our only allies left, Honeybee and Camp Elias's territory, was invaded by the B.O.A. Empire. Blorangio led an operation, in which B.O.A forces would invade their territory for extra land. Only a few members of that nation were on much, and they barely had a military. So B.O.A forces entered and took the territory with no resistance. There was nothing we could do to stop it. We were now on our own. After the successful invasion of our allies' territory, Blorangio decided he wanted to take full control of the B.O.A Empire. Since his partner Pulu was not online much, Blorangio kicked Pulu off the throne with help from some followers. Blorangio was now in total control of the empire. Shortly after this, Pulu quit the server. After a few real-life weeks, we were rich. Filthy rich. We now had a military with over 50 full sets of diamond gear, 6 full sets of netherite gear, 500 dogs, 25 super horses, half a stack of netherite ingots, and a food supply to last us a lifetime. We decided it was time to start making our first move to free the world of Ataraxia from the evil B.O.A Empire. We decided that we would start by landing at our old allies' base to try to free them. Those allies were Honeybee and Camp Elias. As you know, a few weeks ago, Blorangio led an operation that would invade their territory and later annex it. And we also wanted to keep the first fighting as far from home as possible. We laid down the plans for our first invasion of the great B.O.A Empire. The plan was to land on the most northeast side of the territory and construct another portal and attach that portal to our nether hub to have easier access to the land. We also tried to make a few small fortresses around the territory. Things were going exactly to plan, but that was when our worst fear came to light. Blorangio, the leader of the entire empire, logged on. Unfortunately, I did not get this battle on camera, so I will describe it the best I can to you. Blorangio at first did not realize what we were up to, and that we landed on B.O.A grounds and constructed a base. We asked him in chat why he had taken Honeybee's land and then burned down our houses. Blorangio said he did not care. He must have thought we were at our base, so he charged over. That was when Fake Nest got into an argument with Blorangio in chat, and Blorangio saw Over Raccoon and myself on his turf. He then threatened in chat to kill Over Raccoon and me. We did not understand what he was saying because at this time, we did not know Blorangio was coming. All of a sudden, out of a blink of an eye, he was there. He shot me with harming arrows, took out most of my hearts. Over Raccoon and me rushed to the nether portal. Over Raccoon got away and got back to Ursuv. I was trying to escape through the nether portal too, but Blorangio shot me again. I was at half a heart. I jumped off the ledge and crouched in the water. He must have not noticed me. He broke the nether portal and ran back to his base. I jumped in the closest boat and drove back to Ursuv. The Battle of Apis, our attempted landing at our old ally's base, was a humiliating defeat. Only a few minutes later, I arrived back at Ursuv, and it was already time for the next battle. The battle that would change the tides of war. I was able to record this battle so I can show you the real thing. It started at our old Navy base at Ursuv. I started fixing up my gear and got ready in case Blorangio came to attack Ursuv. After a suggestion from Fake Nest, I went back into the base and put on the best netherite suit we had, and Sampling Goat got out his dog army. As soon as I got my netherite gear on, I was informed that Blorangio was here. He came out of the nether portal, and all of our forces were on him. I came out of the Navy base and charged at him. He ran down our farms to try to escape to the harbor and get out. We continued the charge. Then, Fake Nest pulled out his bow. With harming arrows of his own, Fake Nest shot his bow, and Blorangio dropped dead.
Oh my god! Ah, you Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my Oh my god!
We got all of his god gear and most of his weapons. Blorangio was furious. We got in a Discord call with him. He said that if we did not give him his gear back, he would blow up Ursuv, as he had rigged the town with TNT.
I will blow up your base and oh, that knew that. Base. Let's just say that, right? Bro, how did you hit that shot, Liam? You're crazy. And I will blow up your base, and also I do have another Power 5 arming bow, so I can kill them.
We were not convinced of this, since we had a mine that went to the center of Ursuv, that went down to bedrock level, and we had not seen any TNT. Soon we got it out of him that there was no TNT, and it was a trick to try to get us to give him his stuff back. We decided that we were not going to give him his stuff back after everything his empire has done to us.
If he punches you or anyone else, I'm just gonna take the shot.
Yeah. You have no power here anymore. Admit it.
Okay. I have no power here. But if you don't give me my stuff, there will be consequences.
Soon other B.O.A forces answered Blorangio's cries and attempted to raid and destroy Ursuv. The forces showed up in unenchanted iron and diamond, and they were easily defeated. The Battle of Ursuv was a huge victory for our nation Endoria, and one that we desperately needed. After our victory at the Battle of Ursuv, we knew it was time to write our nation's constitution, finally. We got to writing hard, and wrote how we would protect and serve the lands of Endor, and how everyone in our nation has rights. After we wrote our constitution, I declared the creation of the Endorian Empire, and how it would never die. The next day, we began our push into the B.O.A Empire and its captured territories, this time from Ursuv. We began our push into the great Ataraxia mountains and proceeded north to free Endor. A few days later, we took back Endor and started our push northeast to the B.O.A Empire capital, Corruption. Earlier in this invasion, we had learned that the best stuff the B.O.A Empire had was on Blorangio when he died. This was huge because now we could take back the entire server with almost no resistance, and capturing our past territories we took back with no resistance. I continued the push northeast to Corruption, while I sent Fake Nest and Sampling Goat back to attempt, and this time it was a successful landing at Honeybee and Camp Elias's base. They started pushing northwest. Both of our teams eventually surrounded the B.O.A Empire capital of Corruption. After the remaining B.O.A forces realized that all hope was lost, they surrendered. Corruption fell, and with it, Blorangio's dream of a great B.O.A empire fell with it. I think we were all shocked that in a matter of 2 battles and 1 day of pushing through the island, we had defeated the people that took over most of the server. The server was now ours. It was up to us what we want to do with it. The surrender of the B.O.A Empire caused it to collapse a few days later, as Blorangio dissolved it after their defeat. Shortly after the dissolution of the B.O.A Empire, and all of its members except Chicken Man quit the server. We did not really care because everyone was done with war at this point, for now. After they quit the server, We established the new B.O.A Republic and made it more of a buffer state between our new empire and the newly formed Apis Empire, in case a huge war breaks out between the new superpowers. We just hope the B.O.As will never rise up like that again. We started adding new players to the server, and many of them joined our new empire. But it was not long until trouble started again, this time within our own people. Some new players were stealing and raiding other people and causing trouble in our nation. Will this trigger a civil war? We don't know. But the future of the server is unknown, and after the Great Survival War, we have much cleaning up to do. And with new players joining the server, the future of the server is going to get very, very interesting. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the first episode of my new Minecraft War series, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Anyway, I have to get ready for the next major war. See you all in the next one.